The Angolan Civil War was one of the longest and most destructive conflicts in modern African history. Its origins can be traced to the struggle against Portuguese colonial rule and the rivalry between three nationalist movements: the Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, or MPLA, the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola, or UNITA, and the National Front for the Liberation of Angola, or FNLA. These organizations had different political, regional, and ethnic bases, and their rivalry intensified during the final years of Portuguese rule. When Portugal's dictatorship collapsed in the Carnation Revolution of 1974, Lisbon decided to withdraw from its African colonies, leaving Angola facing a dangerous power vacuum. On November 11, 1975, Angola became independent, but instead of achieving unity, the country immediately descended into civil war. The MPLA, led by Agostinho Neto, controlled the capital Luanda and established the new government, while UNITA, led by Jonas Savimbi, and the FNLA fought to challenge its authority. The conflict quickly became part of the global Cold War. The MPLA received extensive military and political support from the Soviet Union, together with thousands of Cuban troops, while UNITA eventually received important assistance from the United States and South Africa. South African forces entered Angola in 1975, while Cuba intervened to support the MPLA government. Angola consequently became one of the most important Cold War battlefields in Africa. During the late 1970s and 1980s, fighting spread across large parts of the country. Government forces, equipped with Soviet tanks, artillery, aircraft, and helicopters, and supported by Cuban troops, fought UNITA guerrillas operating mainly in the southeast. UNITA developed into a powerful insurgent force capable of both guerrilla warfare and conventional military operations. One of the most important confrontations took place at Cuito Cuanavale in 1987-1988, when MPLA and Cuban forces fought UNITA and South African forces. The battle became a major symbol of the war and contributed to negotiations that eventually led to the withdrawal of Cuban and South African troops from the region. The end of the Cold War did not immediately bring peace. In 1991, the government and UNITA signed the Bicesse Accords, establishing a ceasefire and preparing for multi-party elections. Elections were held in 1992, with the MPLA winning the parliamentary vote and José Eduardo dos Santos receiving the largest share of the presidential vote. Savimbi rejected the results, claiming they were unfair, and fighting soon resumed. The renewed war was extremely destructive because both sides possessed huge arsenals accumulated during the Cold War. UNITA controlled significant territory and financed much of its campaign through the diamond trade, while the government relied heavily on Angola's oil revenues. In 1994, the Lusaka Protocol created another attempt at peace, but the agreement eventually collapsed and large-scale fighting returned. During the late 1990s, government forces gradually gained the upper hand. International sanctions weakened UNITA's access to weapons and diamond revenues, while the government strengthened its military capabilities. In February 2002, Jonas Savimbi was killed by government forces in eastern Angola. His death transformed the situation, and UNITA agreed to negotiate. On April 4, 2002, a ceasefire was signed, effectively ending almost 27 years of civil war. The human cost was enormous. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed, millions were displaced, and large areas of the country were devastated. Landmines remained a deadly danger for years, while roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, and agricultural infrastructure had suffered extensive damage. The war also left Angola deeply militarized and economically unequal, despite its enormous oil and mineral resources. Peace finally allowed the government to begin a massive reconstruction program and created conditions for economic growth, although the consequences of the conflict remained visible for decades. The Angolan Civil War was therefore far more than a struggle between rival political movements. Combined decolonization, regional rivalries, ideology, foreign intervention, guerrilla warfare, conventional battles, and competition for natural resources. For almost 3 decades, Angola became a powerful example of how a local conflict could be transformed into an international confrontation by the Cold War. When the fighting finally ended in 2002, Angola had endured one of the longest and most tragic wars in post-colonial African history.